Hello all my Kinvians and welcome to a new episode of Discovering DuckTales, the reboot edition. And today, I'm going to be watching The Living Mummies of Toth-Ra. And I hope I didn't disappoint too many people with the previous episode about Mark Beeks. It's, as of me recording this, it is uploaded and available for patrons over on Patreon, but it has not yet gone public. So yeah, curious to see what people think about that one. But regardless, I have a feeling that this episode will be, at the very least, more interesting to me. Because, again, The Living Mummies of Toth-Ra. And it's usually pretty hard to go with mummies. Or hard to fail when you're going with mummies. Unless we're talking about that latest mummy movie, which... But, yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with this, so let's get right into it with The Living Mummies of Toth-Ra in 3, 2, 1, go!
That was pretty anticlimactic.
Oh.
Hey, what's up?
What?
Hey, if those are mummies, I'd hate to see daddies, am I right?
I am Lynnette, leader of the descendants of the servants of Pharaoh Toth-Ra. For thousands of years, society has thrived.
If you say so. That's it?
That's it? Wait! Ooh, what's in this weird jar, huh?
Probably his kidneys or his heart.
Do not look in those jars.
Ooh, a kidney!
Intruder!
Was I right?
I swear!
Where do we get this burrito?
Seriously.
Where freedom is!
Burritos! Rise up against the mighty Toth-Ra!
Seriously? That's what... Oh, never mind. Let's break up.
I'm with you, Scrooge.
But that can mean anything. Besides, the dumb pharaoh isn't even here.
Oh.
Impossible! Come forth so that I may smite you, fine pretender!
Uh-huh.
No, you come over here so I...
Uh-oh.
Prophecy!
I know!
Oh, he no fake.
Yes!
Mummy Squad, show 'em what you got!
As soon as I saw the head twitch.
The sun god is angry! Oh, never mind.
God is angry. Has he not tried one before?
You know, this is actually not bad at all.
Scrooge has never had a burrito. He's a world adventurer and he's never had a burrito up until that point. I thought he was just being stubborn. I mean, he was. But that ending honestly has me a little bit baffled. That Scrooge has never had a burrito up until that point. What have you been doing, Scrooge? What's wrong with you? You've been depriving yourself. I mean, really? Come on, surely you've been to Mexico a bunch of times. They have burritos. They have all kinds of amazing food there. You can't tell me you never went to an authentic restaurant in Mexico. Then again, he is super rich, so maybe he only has the finest of foods. I don't know. I am psychoanalyzing a rich duck. Anyway. So, happy to say that yes, this episode was, at least for me, a big improvement on the previous episode where, again, I was fairly disappointed in it. But this one, it had everything I love about DuckTales. It had adventure. It had some thrills. It had, I call it the whole crew, but at the very least, like, the core crew of DuckTales. It's like, yeah, we don't have Donald, which is unfortunate. We don't have Mrs. Beakley, which she never really goes on the adventures that I can think of. No, at least not the ones I've seen so far. Yeah, she hasn't really gone on any of them. She's either been at the house or in the second episode, or I'm sorry, the mansion, or in the second episode, her and Donald went to save the kids. But yeah, Mrs. Beakley isn't really there that often. So yeah. So her not being there isn't a big thing, but we do have like the core crew of DuckTales in on this one, and those, I feel like they're my personal favorites. Now, yeah, I know I've been harping on this, but I 100% get it that there are going to be episodes where, just not everyone is there. It's going to focus on just a few characters at a time on certain episodes. And I have definitely come to enjoy those episodes, but the ones that really stand out for me and feel the best for me is where we've got, if not the whole crew, most of the crew, because then we have all the different personalities to play off of, instead of, just a few that develop. Which with the whole crew here, we still had some really good development. Starting with the whole crew being there is my first favorite. My second being Webby and Louie, and them having their own little side segment of the episode where they develop their friendship, develop their relationship some. It's like Webby is the super smart one. She always goes by the rules, or tries to go by the rules. And then Louie is, he's a con man. He always tries to play an angle, even at the end where it's like, pull, he's going to try to not pull a Louie. It's all about branding. It's like, that's the kind of character that Louie is. He talks his way in and out of things, or at least he tries to. But we had some excellent character growth there in Webbigail. Webby didn't necessarily develop herself, but, she developed more through her continuing friendship with Louie. And Louie realized that he messed up. He got himself into big trouble and almost died. It's like he even submitted himself. It's like, I am your humble servant. What would you have me do? And TothRa says, die. So, as he said himself, he's just a scared kid who talked himself into a situation he can't talk himself out of. But he grew in that situation. Yes, it's still, it didn't change his personality. He still is who he is. He's going to play the angles and, work with branding when he needs to. But the fact that him and Webbigail, I don't know why I'm saying her full name, Webby, they spent that time together, and now they're more friends than they were previously. I really like that. Louie has come, really in just the span of a few episodes, a long way from, what was it? Yeah, it was the second episode when they went to the pizza place. I'm forgetting the name now. But basically when they went to that place and Louie was really rude. It was just like, I told you we shouldn't have brought her. Just easily to where she could hear it, and obviously hurting her feelings, and just having that really brash attitude toward her. And he's definitely come a long way. So I really enjoy that aspect of that side story and getting to see those two develop as characters together. Again, while a big chunk of the main cast is actually there with them. Again, although, outside of the tomb where they were trapped. But moving on from Webby and Louie, I really like the concept of the mummies, aka the descendants of the previous worshippers or servants of TothRa. It's really an interesting concept, and I do like how they played with the darkness and the shadows in the animation. It's like once they come into a semblance of light, well, once you're able to see the characters, you can actually tell, okay, these are just people dressed up as mummies, or at the very least very not degenerated mummies. But when they're in the shadows, when they're in the dark, it's like, oh, you can just see. They don't go with just a silhouette of darkness. You can see the wrappings and you can see where their eyes should be, but you can only see the white. And it works so well. It's such a nice effect. And they still use it a few more times through the episode. Obviously not to that degree because we know who they are, but the no pupils thing and using the shade, using that different image of them is used a few times, and it really works. And also just the characters are really interesting because they've had no exposure to the outside until now. And I'm going to talk about this more here in a few minutes, but the reason why they actually decide to rise up against TothRa is burritos. If only everyone else in the world could be as motivated by burritos as they were. But moving on from there, to talk about one of the specific characters, and I'm most likely mispronouncing the name, but Amunet, the main mummy / descendant, her voice is, I mean, at first it's like I recognize, I like her voice, but it's very familiar. It sounds like the voice of someone who has done a lot of roles, a lot of cartoons. She does a fair amount of voice acting. And I could be wrong, but if I was going to place her voice, and I'm gonna look this up afterward just to see if I might be remotely right, but there's two characters who come to mind, one of which is, I want to say number 5, but codename Kids Next Door was a cartoon on Cartoon Network for a while, and but I think that's her voice actor. But also, if you've ever seen Ah Real Monsters, well, I say Ah Real Monsters and then I can't remember the the character's name. The one with the big lips and looks like a black and white candy cane. For some reason, Olivia comes to mind, but I don't think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's not right. But yeah, I'm going to look it up after I'm done recording here, but I could swear that her voice reminds me of those two characters. I don't even know if the same person voices those two characters, but that's what comes to mind. So yeah, again, it's like once I get it figured out, I'll put something here. But moving on from there, burritos. so many weird levels in which burritos were brought into this, and just based on how big they were and how they were wrapped up, I can only assume the animators were inspired by Chipotle. I mean, there's obviously other places that do like the big wrapped, obviously they're wrapped, but the big burritos wrapped up in tinfoil. It's like, it's not exactly an uncommon thing, but just the size of them made me think of that for some reason. But yeah, so that's what motivated the mummies to rise against. And then eventually, obviously, they decided, well, through Amunet's further inspiration, they realized, like, this isn't about burritos, it's about freedom! To have whatever kind of burrito you want, but, And I also just can't help but wonder, other than it's obviously through the magic of cartoons, but where was Launchpad getting all those burritos? He had at least 3 on him. And the fact that they crashed, went through the sand into the pyramid, and he still had at least 3 burritos available. Explain yourselves, animators! Explain yourselves! Or not, because me actually wondering about that is actually quite stupid. But it still does make me wonder. So there we go. Oh, and obviously, again, I know I talked about this at the very end of the reaction, but Scrooge has never had a burrito before. Like, through the beginning of the episode when he gets onto Launchpad, is like, have some respect. We're in a pharaoh's tomb, a pharaoh's pyramid. And I thought he was just being, a Scrooge. Scrooge was being a Scrooge. I thought he was just being, it's like, stop playing around. But, again, that just heavily implies that he's never had a burrito before. And that's weird. Again, I'm not going to harp on that too long because I went on for at least a few minutes, again, at the beginning of the review portion here. It's just very strange to me to think that a character with that much money... Again, I don't care if you're rich or not. You've had a burrito before, surely. Anyway, I'll shut up about that. Moving on. Smart Webby. Now, this plays into, it's like, the whole Webby and Louie dynamic. But the moment that jumped out to me is when they were about to be sacrificed or dumped into the floor of spikes, whatever it was called. And Webby just real quickly thinks of, that this isn't a proper sacrifice. You don't even have the Book of the Dead. You don't have anyone to do the mummifications, this and that. And it shows how incredibly smart she is. And it did save them, which probably was her intention to try to do. But at the same time, as she said, it's like, if I'm going to be sacrificed, I want it to be done properly. So, I feel like part of her was thinking, okay, this might at the very least be enough to distract him and to save us for a few moments. But also, it's like she wanted it to be done properly. Honest to God, and Jill has watched several of these episodes with me. Webigail and my wife Jill have some commonalities about them. And it's amazing. But, alright, moving on from there. TothRa himself. Now, when the throne came down, and actually I don't even know his name, but the guard, when he brought down the pharaoh and was controlling it, that was really interesting, and it makes a weird amount of sense, the fact that they were able... the fact that because Louie is who he is a con man, he talks himself in and out of things, that the person behind the whole TothRa thing would be a con man himself, and a descendant of con men who had been tricking, the servants for generations. So I found that reveal really interesting, and especially like once the arms started moving and we see the wooden poles, like that was just kind of this moment of, oh, okay, so this whole thing is just stupid, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna get mad at the guard and this and that. But then they pulled TothRa actually coming alive, and I honestly didn't expect that. Again, I know I should, because this show has shown multiple possibilities of magic and curses and everything occurring. But I don't know, for some reason I honestly just thought that it was going to be one of those deals where it's just revealed that, the whole thing is a ruse. And yeah, Webby would be sad about it, but then there might be, something at the end that kind of hints at maybe TothRa really is alive. But no, they went right for it, and TothRa crossed that point. And yeah, just went on a path of destruction. And it was a really cool segment, because again, I wasn't expecting it. And Launchpad actually got hurt, which poor guy, he's been bitten by poisonous spiders, he's been knocked unconscious, and apparently broke a few bones possibly from getting hit by, well, technically the mummy hit Scrooge into Launchpad and then launched them into the wall, but still, that obviously really hurt. But yeah, I feel like this episode even kind of helped me see that, yes, in many ways, Launchpad in this 2017 iteration is kind of a idiot. They focus a lot on him just being kind of a dum-dum and not being the lovable goof like he was in the original series. But from what we didn't get to see in the House of the Lucky Gander writers, and then also just his selflessness in, doing his best to save Uncle Scrooge, and while yes, the burrito thing is kind of dumb, he did actually inspire these people to rise up against TothRa, so it was really interesting. I am so happy that they're writing Launchpad in a way that isn't just being a bumbling, not just a bumbling idiot, but more of the lovable goof that I remember him as. And then my final favorite part of this episode, it again happens during TothRa's path of destruction. Dewey shows up with his 4 mummies, and they do a Thriller dance. And as soon as I saw Dewey's head do that, it was just instantly clicked. It's like, oh my god, they're doing a Michael Jackson Thriller reference. And I was so happy. It was just perfect. And I'm glad that they actually didn't hint at it either. They didn't hint at it earlier. It's like, he has them acting like mummies / kind of zombies, and then he asks them about, Frankensteins. So there's no indication that the Thriller thing is coming, and then it hits, and it's just, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So yeah. Oh, and then, I mean, there were some pretty hilarious quotes throughout this episode. I think my favorite one, though, just because of how weird and absurd it was, because I feel this way some days, is when Amunet comes outside and she sees the sun in all of its glory for the first time, and she just screams, "The sun god is angry!" It's so good. Oh god, it's so good. So yeah, I have no issues with this episode. This was fun. This was funny. It was really good. It was thrilling. This is one of the really, really good, solid episodes of DuckTales, of which there have been quite a few. I thankfully feel like the weaker ones, no bad ones at this point, but the weaker ones are hugely outnumbered by the good to great episodes, and I'm really happy about that. Speaking of other episodes, that's it for this one. Coming up next will be Terror of the Terrafermians. I have no idea. But yeah, before we move on to there, let me just say, first of all, thank you all very much for being here for this episode of Discovering DuckTales. Please let me know your thoughts on the episode, what I've had to say in this episode, as well as what I've had to say in the comments down below. Let me know whether you agree with me, disagree with me on things. Always, for those of you that don't know, for these and also my Discovering Once Upon a Time videos, one of my subscribers, Flix, you'll see them in the comments as Mixflix, MXFLIX. They do just these amazing time-coded comments throughout the entirety of the full reaction, which again, if you want to see it, I do share the full reaction for these videos. There's a link to it in the description down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And they go through the episode and leave those comments, and it's just, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. It's like, there are so many great commenters, and I'm sorry if I don't get to reply to everyone. Sometimes I'm just too busy, or things are going on, but I do my best to at the very least read them. But the fact that Mixflix goes through, these episodes and does, again, these time-coded comments for different things and never lets me get away with crap. It's like, if I say something stupid, they say I said something stupid. If I forget something and I kind of go on about it, some of you may know what I'm talking about if you watch my Discovering Once Upon a Time videos. They'll let me know. But yeah, it's, if nothing else, definitely check out those comments down below, and you may find something that you're wanting to comment on that they've commented on already. Again, just check out the timestamp, because all those timestamps refer to the full version of this video. So yeah. Thank you all for the comments, letting me know what you all think, and also, again, just a huge thank you to Mixflix and any others that just pour your hearts out in the comments, whether it's pouring your heart out through just, a long comment, or, again, the time-coded comments. I truly appreciate the fact that you all like these videos enough to do that. So yeah. You know what? I'm going to leave it there. I'm looking forward to the next episode, Terror of the Terrafermians, and yeah, I think it should be a lot of fun. I am loving this first season of DuckTales 2017, and I think Terror of the Terrafermians, in order of aired episodes, was actually the 4th. But again, I'm watching it in the quote-unquote correct order according to their production codes. So, yeah. So, here after episode 8 of season 1, I'm going to be watching episode 4. Anyway, until next time, everyone, for, again, Terror of the Terrafermians, I am Papa Ken, and I will see you in the next episode.